Quick field report from on the road here. Did you see the capsizing of the America's Cup vessel Patriot, the AC-75 vessel in Auckland, New Zealand yesterday? You know the old saying, racing improves the breed. Well, these America's Cup vessels are such a radical hydrofoil monohull shaped design now that these vessels are doing more flying than they are sailing. So in looking at this accident yesterday, it's more like looking at an aircraft accident investigation than a sailing boat incident. Nobody was hurt. There was some serious damage done to the hull of the AC-75 vessel Patriot. Big hole in the hull. Let's take a look and show you what I mean. First, let's look at the raw footage, and then we'll explain a little more about how these vessels work. This is the Patriot vessel in the lead here. I'm not sure which mark this is. And here's the incident. And as Pete says, kablamo. Okay, now let's back that up and take a closer look. These are hydrofoil monohull designs. The foils are lifting the boat up out of the water. Here's the foil. The left foil is in the water. The right foil is retracted and is used as ballast. I think this weighs about a ton or two. And then the rudder has a foil on it as well at the back of the boat. And of course the sails are a complete airfoil. It's not a single sheet that makes up the sail on these vessels. It's a full airfoil shape. So they drop that foil into the water and begin to round the mark. You can see the hull of the vessel is completely out of the water and has a large keel on the bottom here. This is more for aerodynamics. Notice how the sail comes all the way down to the top of the hull. And then we got the keel on the bottom here. This is similar to an aircraft wing. Look at an airliner. What you'd want here is a nice round fillet to minimize the aerodynamic drag between this junction of the sail and the fuselage, or the hull in this case. And you want to minimize the amount of air that can escape from the high pressure to the low pressure side of the sail. And so that's the idea with this big keel here on the bottom. As the foils lift the hull up out of the water, this keel remains in the water, minimizing the amount of air that can slip from the high pressure to the low pressure side of the sail until the hull is up and completely flying out of the water. You see the rudder turning the vessel. Okay, so he's rounding the mark. He gets hit by a big gust of wind here. He's got a little bit of reduced sail on the jib. He begins to get blown down quite hard. These foils, when underwater, they have movable trailing edge flaps on them. They're not so much ailerons as they are flaps. So watch the rudder, and the rudder too is tapered. So as the vessel is moving slowly, you have more rudder area in the water. As the vessel is moving quickly and has risen up high out of the water, the rudder is very thin to reduce aerodynamic drag. But as he's heeled way over, that thin rudder produces very little turning area. Again, heeling over as a result of the gust of wind. Right there, stalls begin to happen. Again, this is more all about flying than sailing, or sailing is all about flying. The jib sail, this sail here begins luffing or stalling. So this sail begins to stall. The sails are what's providing the forward momentum of the vessel. So that sail stalls what it looks like first. He's cranking in, beginning to crank in the hard right rudder. He's got very little rudder to work with here. What I don't understand about these vessels is the rudder and the trailing edge flaps on the hydrofoil on the left hydrofoil here, are they interconnected? When you crank in full right rudder, does it also crank in some trailing edge flap on this hydrofoil? Or is that completely separate, or is that computer controlled? At any rate, it looks to me like, I believe, some trailing edge flap gets cranked into this hydrofoil, lifting the boat. Let's see what happens. Okay, he's got that hard right rudder cranked into there. Now I believe the rudder is beginning to stall. The rudder itself, I think, is beginning to stall. He's losing directional control of the boat. At about the same time, the mainsail is beginning to luff. So now the mainsail is stalling. So with both sails stalling, there's nothing to continue to drive this boat forward other than the momentum, the extreme amount of momentum that this vessel has. These are very lightweight vessels, though. They don't have a lot of smash, if you will, because of their lightweight carbon composite design. So now, the only thing left flying, this is where I think he's got trailing edge flap added to this hydrofoil as it's pushing this nose up, but at the same time, this fuselage is a lifting body design. The fuselage itself is a wing, and this lifting body, this fuselage, is about to stall. So it's weather vaned a bit into the wind. It's got a considerable amount of wind picked up underneath it, much like a NASCAR when it begins to flip, and the aerodynamic forces, because of the extreme speeds, can really lift the body up and flip the car. In this case, the speed and the wind up underneath this lifting body hull design is lifting it up out of the water to an extreme angle. That's not a piece of the rudder breaking, that's a bird. That hull popped completely out of the water, and now the main hull, that hydrofoil came completely out of the water, and now the main hull is stalling. Everything is stalled. Bam, and back down in the water she goes, and apparently that impact was hard enough to poke a hole in the boat. She weather vanes into the wind, and over she goes. There's nothing left to hold that boat up if you do not have without any forward momentum to keep that foil flying. There's nothing to hold the boat upright anymore. So it's just gonna heel right over, tip right over. No big deal. I'll show you how you lift these vessels. No big deal other than you've lost the race. But now you've got to get the wind up under these sails by getting the angle of attack of these sails such that you can get the wind up underneath them and to get these wings flying again and lift the vessel back upright. But as they lift the vessel back upright, the bow is still underwater. It's taking on water and it's sinking pretty fast. Again, nobody is injured. So everybody in the race basically stops what they're doing and comes to their aid, and they get a pump on board the vessel and a bunch of airbags and begin to lift the vessel up out of the water and pump the water out of the hull and get the AC-75 yacht back into harbor, where they've got 4 days to fix this rather large hole in the hull. And with these exotic composite designs, will they be able to do that repair in time? Will they have enough time to get the resins to set? So between airbags and pumps, they were able to get the vessel out of the water and back on shore. Such is racing. Here we can get a closer look at the aerodynamic design of that rigging. See, he's got his hand on it. Long, skinny, not round, but aerodynamically shaped rigging, because that amount of rigging represents a lot of aerodynamic drag. Here's the hole in the hull of the vessel right there. Will they have time to fix it? There you can see both hydrofoils in the down position. They've already got the mast off of it, and that's what they've got 4 days to repair, if they can do that at all. So very interesting technology in these racing hydrofoil designs. Tell me what you think of that analysis. Everything I know about sailing you can fit into a thimble, but it's basically aerodynamics, and it's all very relatable. Thanks so much for your support of this channel. See you here. What is it? Oh, there he is. What do you think? You want to try that one day?